Hello, my name is John Cowart. I'm an instructor here at Lincoln Tech, Grand Prairie campus. I'd like to show you a little bit about our toolkit today that we get. Now, unfortunately, you probably have to come back after we get done with all the coronavirus stuff to get your toolkit, but this is what you have waiting on you, and a lot of hands-on fun to do with these tools and learning how to use them. Very important that you learn how to use hand tools in our industry, because you're going to be using them every day. Some of them you won't use as much, some of them will be on you all the time. For instance, like a meter, like I'm going to talk about in a minute. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt the camera down so you can kind of see some of the tools I'm talking about, and then I'll point to them and tell you a little bit about them. Okay, here's your Lincoln Tech toolkit in a nutshell. These tools you can take with you out in the field. Very well could last you for several years in the field as you're going. One thing we have here, we have safety glasses, or safety goggles should I say. These are good for protecting your eyes, cover from the bottom and the top. Here's your more safety glasses that we use every day. Definitely want to protect your eyes, because if you do not have your eyes, you're not going to be able to work. So always be safe on that. We have a couple of nut drivers here. These are the two most common sizes that you'll run into in the HVAC field. These are very handy to have. They make it just a lot easier instead of having to pull your screwdriver apart and use the nut drivers on those. Right here we have a ratcheting multi-bit screwdriver. This is a heavy duty screwdriver. It's made by Klein Tools. Very well done, I think, as far as that. I own this screwdriver myself. Gets you out of a lot of bad situations. We have Phillips heads, we have straights, we have hex keys, and we have square. And it also has a lot of nut driver accessories on it, also similar to these. Right here, we have your small screwdriver with a valve core remover on it. This screwdriver actually comes apart, and it has a slotted head and a Phillips head on it. So this comes in handy when you're tweaking boards on units, or if you're working on a thermostat or what have you. Just a second. There we go. Let's give us a little bit more angle. Right here you have your flashlight. Very handy to use in all kinds of different situations. You're not always going to have light from overhead to get into where you need to get into. So very handy to have a flashlight. Comes with a pouch. You have your tape measure here. Very important to learn how to use a tape measure. This one actually breaks it down to you and tells you what you're getting in here between 1/16, quarter, eighths, half inch. Very good tape to have. We use that a lot. Hex keys. These come in handy a lot when you're doing stuff with your two-way valves, when you're installing units. Small pipe cutter right here. This is good for cutting small pipe for like copper fittings on like a liquid line or a discharge line, ice machines. Inspection mirror. Your inspection mirror here is good to where if you have a pipe on a wall and you can't see behind that, you can actually telescope that out, angle that behind there so you can see. It's good, very good when brazing. Check and see if your weld's good. A level, of course. We always want to do work. We always want it to look good, and we always want it to be level. Right here is a set of flare and swathing tools. This is very handy in the industry, so if you don't have fittings, you can make your own fitting. Doesn't take a whole lot of time to learn. So you can make fittings right there with your copper line without having to go buy an expensive copper fitting at the parts house. Right here we have our large tubing and piping cutter. This works the same way as the small one. This just goes up on sides. You can do 3/8, half inch, 5/8, 7/8, different pipes here. Also has a deburring tool in the back of it, comes really in handy. This is one of the specialty tools you get. This is actually a valve core removal tool. This is by JB. And actually that allows you to remove valve cores out of systems without having to take the charge out. So that becomes very handy and time saving. The valve core is similar to the valve cores in your tire on your car or truck or vehicle. So we have to change those from time to time. Right here we have a refrigeration wrench. This is something I've got in my pocket all the time right here. It comes in different sizes, 5/16, 3/16, a quarter, and 5/8. Most of the time you're going to be using the quarter inch version of that. This is also a little tool that comes into here. Remember when I said about valves on new systems? You can put that in there, and that works as a hex key in there. Working. This is ratcheting, it goes either way. So this is very handy tool to have. Saves a lot of time. Next thing we want to look at, let's look at your channel locks, or groove and lock pliers here. These are good for getting on nuts, or especially if something's rusted out or something like that. Very good for that. Sometimes you'll hear them as groove and lock, sometimes you'll hear them as a channel lock. This right here is more of a wiring tool. This comes in handy. This is called lineman's pliers. It has a cutter. That way you can get several different wires and wrap them around like this. It makes it a heck of a lot easier when you're doing your wiring. This right here you're going to use a lot. This is your wire stripper cutter. This has multi-functions on it. Crimping tool. Something you're going to use every day. You can strip wire at different sizes with this. And it goes anywhere from 10 gauge, it looks like, all the way up to 22 gauge. These are, you hear these called diagonal cutters. These are cutters for like wire cutting, cable cutting. You also hear them called side dike sometimes, as a slang name we use in the business. Very handy for wiring. Right here, these are needle nose pliers, or long nose pliers, as some people like to call them. These are very good for if you're having to reach in and grab something. Always make sure the electricity's off first, especially if you're pulling out, checking windings on a compressor. These also have cutters on them. These just really come in handy for a lot of different things you do. Right here you have an adjustable wrench, just out to several sizes of nut. You want to use that. These are real handy when you run into different size nuts in the field that you have to work with. This is just a bigger version of that. You always, if you're working on a bigger one, you always want to use the bigger wrench over the little one. That way you get more torque to put down on something and you have more leverage. Right here we have a temperature probe. This is what you plug in. You will plug into your meter over here. Plug it in right here and put that on a line, like a copper line, and that actually tells you temperature, where you get your liquid line temperature, discharge line temperature, suction line temperature. These are real handy to use. Saves you a lot of time. This is also another temperature probe. You can tape this on a line, but this is a lot easier. This is more for air temperature, things like that. Comes in real handy. What you do here, you take that, you've got your multimeter here. This multimeter has a lot of different functions. This is something you're going to use every day here. This is this multimeter. You have an amp clamp. You're going to have connections to do voltage, ohms testings, continuity, many different things you can do. You also have your temperature up there at the top. Put that in there and you plug this in here. This is called a K-type thermocouple. And let's see, I believe, yep, that fits in there just like that. And that way when you turn this on, you'll be able to tell the temperature. And right now it's saying this room is 69 degrees. Same thing with this little guy right here. It does the same thing. You stick it in. It only goes in one way. If you flip it the other way, it'll give you a wrong reading. So they have a bigger blade on one and a smaller blade on the other. So you really can't get them in there. Are not supposed to be, but sometimes it happens. I've seen it. It's saying it's the air temperature in here is 70 degrees. If I take that and put my fingers on it, it will now be reading my body temperature, and we're jumping way on up to 90 now and above. So that's a good little thing to have here. This comes with alligator clips and probes to do your voltage draws, to do your continuity testing, ohm testing. Comes in a good, nice case right here. It's got a light on it. Very well made meter, in my opinion. Right here is your gauge manifold set. This right here is what we hook up to the system to see what our pressures are, to charge, to recover, to vacuum. Basically, you have a low side gauge and you have a high side gauge. This is called a compound gauge because it reads above and below atmospheric pressure. Your pressure reading will be on the outside of the gauges. Then inside here, depending on what refrigerant this works with, this one is 404A, R22, and R410A, you can see your SRT high and low at a glance, which that would be condensing temp or evaporating temp, boiling temperature. Has two gate wheels on the side. Basically, you open them up, and you have your hoses right here that goes with them. These hoses are what connects to the machine you're working on, to the AC unit, refrigeration, or what. These have low loss fittings built right in. You can just turn them off. That keeps us from burning our fingers when we disconnect from some units. It also is part of our EPA training because they don't want us to vent refrigerant. Now you will vent some, that's called a de minimis amount. That's just, you can't not vent anything, but a de minimis amount is all that we're allowed to vent by law. So these come in handy so you don't burn your fingers and get the EPA standards. Right here is a PT chart, pressure temperature chart. Now a lot of these come on phones, but this is a good card one that you can carry around with you. And it has a variety of different refrigerants that will tell you at what pressures and temperatures they're at. Last but not least, we got our tool bag here. This is a fairly sturdy tool bag. I don't know if you can see the inside. It comes with several different pockets, so you can easily carry all your tools in this, probably some more. This is something great I like because you can take this, and if you're going up on a roof or climbing in an attic, you can put this on your back, carrying it up and around. It's a lot easier sometimes than a bag. Very sturdy, very good bag. Right here is just a basic list of supplies when we're in class. Basically what we do is we go over this and make sure you have everything in the toolkit. 99.9% of the time everything's in there, but every now and then something slips by. But that's very far and in between. So basically this is your toolkit. This is what you'll have while you're here at Lincoln Tech. This is what you'll have when you start out, especially your first year in the field. And if you take good care of these tools, they can last you a whole long time. Thank you very much. See you later.